Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear speakers, participants, and project partners, good morning. Welcome to the transnational learning journey organized within the framework of the Interreg LCA4Regions project. I am very glad to have all of you with us today on this occasion. This online event will take place from 25th to 27th of May 2021 and is devoted to the exchange of experiences on life cycle assessment for public procurement in Slovenia. My name is Alvin Pintar, and I will be, together with my colleague Gregor Žerjav, your host during these 3 days. We both come from the Laboratory for Environmental Sciences and Engineering at the National Institute of Chemistry in Ljubljana. Besides us, Ms. Irena Hvala, Ms. Nina Pecholer, and Mr. Ivica Ilic, co-workers at the Institute's project office, will contribute to the event as moderators. The technical assistant is Mr. Samo Ritosha from DNet Company. Several of you were having an opportunity to meet him in the past days concerning the arrangement of technical details. As said before, the transnational learning journey is organized as part of the Interreg LCA4Regions project. For those of you who are with us for the first time, let me briefly describe the project. LCA4Regions is an international cooperation project funded in the period of 2019-2023 under the European Regional Development Fund. The project aims to help regions to use national resources more efficiently by introducing life cycle assessment methodologies into regional policies and procedures. Countries participating in the project are Spain, Portugal, Finland, Lithuania, Italy, Belgium, and Slovenia. The project started in 2019. After the first learning journey in Lithuania, the second one in Navarra in Spain, and the third one in Satakunta in Finland, it is now time for the fourth exchange of experiences on life cycle methodologies and tools for public procurement and as well as for green public procurement. Due to COVID-19 measures, it is not possible to carry out the learning process on site in Slovenia, so we hope you can attend this 3 days online event and spread with us the life cycle thinking. Since you were not able to travel to Slovenia to attend the event in person, we prepared for you a short video that brings you a few details about the country. Hi. The hosting institution of this event is the National Institute of Chemistry in Ljubljana, which celebrates its 75th anniversary this year. The institute was established in the year 1946, and the very first research that was conducted was in the field of coal liquefaction and coal gasification. Actually, these first approaches were not successful, so after a few years, the institute reoriented and started to work, to conduct scientific research work in very fundamental aspect. So nowadays, the institute is very much devoted in expanding knowledge of chemistry and associated studies, then in transferring knowledge to younger generations. I mean, to educate new researchers, as well as then applying newly acquired knowledge to industry. You can see here on this slide that the institute is conducting research work in different fields, but briefly speaking, we are conducting research in the fields of life sciences on one side, as well as on materials and chemical engineering on the other side. And by doing this, we are tackling different social challenges in the fields of health, food, climate, and energy, as well as in circular economy and environmental protection. The institute cooperates with several industrial companies through R&D contracts, joint projects, as well as services. We cooperate strongly with Slovenian as well as companies from abroad. And as well, we are cooperating with many companies through European Union funded projects within the Horizon 2020 scheme. Here more details are shown, so you can see that predominantly the research work is the institute is financially supported through national research programs and research projects. However, we are also strongly involved in a variety of projects funded by the European Union and European Commission. As well as there are also some projects that have been directly established through the direct cooperation with several foreign companies. I will also share with you a little information about the Laboratory for Environmental Sciences and Engineering at the National Institute of Chemistry. The laboratory is part of the Department for Inorganic Chemistry and Technology, and we conduct research work in the field of environmental protection. We are involved in two broad topics. One of them is the topic of wastewater treatment, and the other topic is the CO2 utilization. It is common to both topics that we develop materials, heterogeneous catalysts, which are using to promote a variety of reactions in this field. We also strongly cooperate with several industrial companies, including pharmaceutical and chemical companies. Let me now speak briefly about the transnational learning journey organized by us during these 3 days. So the event starts today, and today we will have on the program 3 presentations. First of all, in the field of regulation of green public procurement in Slovenia, then about the life cycle methodologies in Slovenian green public procurement, and the third presentation comes from France, and it will be on the web tool for green public procurement. Tomorrow, the event will start with examples of good practices, and these presentations will be given by project partners, and then the program will follow by another presentation on challenges in applying public procurement in practice. On the third day, there will be 2 presentations. First of all, there will be a presentation from Finland regarding the presentation of Kino platform and some general views about public procurement, which will follow by the presentation on LCA in Europe and green public procurement. And in the last part of the third day of the event, there will be the presentation about the Slovenian policy context, which will be followed by the peer review session. And all of you are very warmly invited to actively participate in the event during these 3 days. To stimulate the interaction between the participants and the presenters, and the guidelines how to use the interactive discussion platform will now be given by Francesco Lembo from ACR Plus, the partner coming from Belgium. Please, Francesco.
Hello, thanks Albin for the short introduction, for the very good introduction. I'll try to be very short on introducing you the tool we set up today. Here it is. I hope you will be able to see my screen soon. Basically, after 1 year of experiencing the limitation due to online project meetings, especially when they have a high number of participants and they are very well populated like our meetings, like LCA4Region meeting, we tried, and this is something we are experimenting together with you on how to improve partners interaction. We set up for you these Miro boards. Those are discussion boards in which you could do, and you are invited during the proceedings of our 3 days of TLJ to log in to you can simply access the boards by clicking on the link that you received by Albin yesterday and that you find now in the chat of the Cisco WebEx platform. One technical suggestion: if you see that you are not controlling very well, like moving around or zooming for a clearer use, you just go to Settings, Navigation Mode, and you set your, and depending of if you're using a laptop with a mouse or a trackpad or a mobile, in case of mobiles you will have a third option, you choose your preferred options and you go to apply. Then commenting, it's very simple. Even keywords, short sentences, idea you're having about the presentation you're going to listen, you simply go to one of the post-its during, they are already put in order according to the presentations we will hear today. You double click on your post-it, you write your comment, and you put your comments on the dashboard according to the position you think it's more fitting to the grid we already prepared. I hope it is clear enough. Don't hesitate if you have any question while using it to pose question to me or Nicolas Jamar in the chat of the Cisco WebEx platform. We are here to support you. We strongly invite you to put and include some comments for each partners and each participant because they will help us to guide through the briefing session at the end of these days, and especially because your comments will be the basis for Azure Plus to develop the deliverable, the TLJ document to be shared with partners, with participants, and with external stakeholders. And that's all by my side. Thanks, Albin.
Thank you very much, Francesco. So now it's time to move to the first presentation, which will be given by Mr. Sašo Matas, Director General of the Public Procurement Directorate from the Ministry of Public Administration of the Republic of Slovenia. And his talk will be on the regulation of green procurement in Slovenia. Please, Mr. Matas.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Dear all, I will try to share the screen. I hope you can see it all. Right? You can see it?
Yes, we see it very well. Just please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me for having this training today on regulation of green procurement in Slovenia. Actually, it's been quite, I would say, a journey for Slovenian officials, almost 15 years to come to the situation that today we have law and then decree on green procurement, special green procurement, which is regulating obligatory green procurement in the public procurement field in Slovenia. Actually, probably I will start with these climate stripes. You know them, most of you know them all. The Economist has made a popular demand on this several years ago on its cover. And actually, those who are not aware of it, this is the color of the year average from the England from the late 18th century to 2017, and you can see how the climate is changing on average daily basis, almost 50% in 2 centuries. Daily growth of the temperature. So of course the society must react and the public sector must react also. So we had this discussion in 2005, 6, 7, 8. We went with some colleagues from the Ministry of Environment to several conferences and decided that actually first Slovenia needs to have an action plan on green procurement. So first action plan was adopted in 2018, valid from 2009 to 2012 actually, and we had, I would say, quite an optimistic goal, saying that in year 2012 50% of relevant public procurement will be green, meaning that some of the subject matter will try to push toward 50%. But that was just an action plan. We tried to stimulate the contracting authorities, but that itself was, of course, not enough. In 2011, the first decree on green public procurement was adopted by the Slovenian government. I think at that time, and still, we are one of the rare countries, member states of EU, that we are having a special decree on green public procurement, making the I would say sustainable procurement in public procurement obligatory for contracting authorities. First, we start with the national level contracting authorities, then going to municipalities and other contracting authorities as hospital, kindergartens, and so on. Today, the decree on green public procurement is obligatory for more than 2,000 contracting authorities in Slovenia. At that time, 2011, the first purpose was, of course, lowering the emission of the public sector. The second, to be a role model for private sector and society, so they should follow. If in Slovenian government we are trying to buy at least 15% of green vehicles, we are encouraging the private sector to do the same. So there was of course, strong debate which sustainable criteria should be put on, how the decree should work, because it can be more than a law, obligatory law. It's from the legal point, it's more soft law. But we try to make, I would say, obligatory criteria that work in practice, so that every contracting authority needs to reach at least that level of the sustainable decree. So in 2011, from the 1st of January, decree brought implementation of sustainable criteria into 12 group of procurement matter, good services, and some works. So, and I will explain which are those procurement matter later on. So this brought us step-by-step implementation of green procurement into public sector. So what was the reaction of the contracting authority at the beginning? In 2015, goal from action plan was almost reached. 45% of included procurement, meaning not all the procurement, but those procurement groups, 45% of included procurement was reached. That was, I would say, I said at the beginning, the plan was quite optimistic, and we reached almost 50%, meaning that in 2015, the share of the whole procurement as such, 16% of all procurement was green. We reach, I would say, that quite fast in several years. But that was not enough, thinking that there are more and more the procurement groups, procurement matters, that they should become obligatory for contracting authorities. So we changed in 2011, the government adopted the new decree. This decree, of course, is laid on the public procurement law, and it established on one hand new procurement groups, and on the other hand is establishing a little bit different methodology and the criteria how this is used. I will explain this a little bit later on. So today, those data are from today. Almost 33% of the procurement in Slovenia is green. We are, of course, looking forward getting this number towards 50%, but you know that, of course, some of the procurement groups cannot be green. If you are buying, and in the amount of money, of course, this can be quite a lot. For example, if you are buying the petroleum, if you are buying the, I don't know, mobile telephony, fixed telephony, this is hardly, we can say it can be green. But there are certain matter groups, certain procurement groups that, of course, can be at least partly green. So how contracting authorities are using it? Mostly those are goods. 82% of the green procurement are used on goods, almost 10 on services, and almost 9 on works. Now in pipeline there is a changes of the decree on green procurement, which will probably making the share on works even much important, even bigger. How the contracting authorities are using this? Usually they can put it as a contract matter. I think the figure here, the statistics are wrong, because this is obligatory, so here shouldn't be the zero. I discussed this with my colleagues, that probably here the statistics is wrong. You can see comparing to the slide before, that we have 5,712 number of green procurement, and here the sum is much bigger, meaning that contracting authorities are using this green criteria in one procurement in several manners. First, most important, of course, is the technical specification. More than 60, almost 65%, they put the green criteria in technical specification. 10 is award criteria, 15% selection criteria, 30% contract clauses, and other selection criteria. And here you can see, of course, that usually the debate and the myth, I would say, is that if you are not using an award criteria beside price, then you are not seeking for quality. This is not true, of course, because you can always write your demand for the green procurement or any other quality in the technical specifications, selection criteria, even contract clauses, and of course, not only the award criteria. This is a myth we are trying to break in the public procurement environment, that the quality procurement doesn't mean that you are putting something beside price, but that you need to put a really good demand in your technical specification. Technical specification are alpha and omega in public procurement environment. If I can continue. So legislation on green procurement, it was, as I said, established 2011. We were preparing the action plan in 2009. So it's almost 15 years, I would say, of green procurement in Slovenia. But what does it mean? It means that it's a process where public authorities, contracting authorities, are procuring goods with good services and works with reduced environmental impact through their life cycle or any other matter. But usually, we will see at the end of my presentation how we use that in a centralized procurement when we are procuring, for example, computers or vehicles. So the directive which were adopted in 2014 and they were transposed in Slovenian law in 2015, of course, they are permitting the green public procurement. Even more, they are suggesting that the green public procurement should be used more and more. And 14 days ago, there was a high-level conference in Lisbon, and for the first time in the EU, I would say among member states and Commission, there was a discussion for the first time that maybe even the green public procurement should be obligatory or also on EU level, which will not make a big difference in Slovenia probably, but may it's a mandatory since 2011, and the regulation on green public procurement was renewed in 2017, entering force in 2018, and there are several slightly changes with previous decree. First, there are now 20 subject groups, and you can see that from 2015 to 2019, the data previously shown to you almost jumped, almost doubled the green public procurement in Slovenia, the usage. The second one, there was a change which environmental consideration should contracting authorities taking into account, and the objectives were set. Before, the decree was really detailed. Now we said we just put the objectives, the criteria. For example, each contracting authority every year needs to buy at least 15% of green vehicles. How they do it, it's up to them. Previously, we put a detailed schemes how they should calculate and put them. But now it's more flexible. We allowing contracting authorities to reach that goal from several perspectives. But we made a special recommendation and technical specification. So those contracting authorities who are not well aware, they can use, I would say, those guidelines. So besides, I was talking that we are trying to, what we are doing with the new decree, we are lowering the emission of the public sector. We are trying to be the role model, but also with the new decree, we try to improve the environmental characteristic market offer. So we are trying to help the market to be more flexible and to try to establish a special market on green goods, services, and works. And of course, to promote environment innovation and circular economy. Now the Slovenian government with the Ministry of Environment will probably enter the special project on circular economy, where the circular procurement, which is actually, I would say, upgrade of the green procurement, will be one of the most important phases of that project. Also, the decree, as said before, promotes the integration of environmental management system as EMAS ISO 14000, the acquisition of certificates, and the reduction of carbon footprint, of course, by companies and the products they are delivering. So as I said before, decree just established goals. 15% of green vehicles, 30% of green buildings, with at least 20% of wood. In Slovenia, you know, there is a lot of wood. So we also try to promote, I would say, the local markets with the green, emphasizing the sustainable criteria. And the 8, as I said, new 8 group of green subject matter were added. But beside that, because we see that it's not just the law, we need to educate, we need to have professional contracting authorities, public servants, that the Ministry of Public Administration, when our directorate is part of it, with other ministries, especially with the Ministry of Environment, prepared recommendation for each group of subject matter. So in after the decree was we already have the recommendation for each group of subject matter. How, which technical specification can be used, for example, for electricity, which award criteria, selection criteria, which eco labels, which environmental certificates can be used, and how to, in the public procurement process, this is really an important procedural matter, how to check those certificates, what to demand from the economic operators when contracting authority is receiving a bid. So this is all written down in recommendation in, I would say, more than 100 pages, but for each procurement group. And also another really, I think, important horizontal between the ministries, because it's not always really simple to have the ministries, so different ministries on the same page. And the decree on green procurement is really a horizontal legislation that we establish contact points to provide expert assistance. So if some, I don't know, school or hospital is needing advice, expert assistance, they can call a special dedicated number, and can discuss this with an expert on different ministries. This is still not easy task, because the ministries usually are not seeing themselves as ones who can help the contracting authorities, but this is getting better each day. And now after almost 3.5 years of this decree, I think we establish a good social network of experts and on the side of usage of contracting authorities who are getting more and more professional on using it. Obligatory electricity. This has been obligatory food and catering services, textile products, office paper, of course, electronic office computers, equipment, which meaning computers, printers, desktop machines, laptops, televisions, refrigerators, furniture, water heaters, sanitary fittings, and of course, many others, toilet equipment, wall panels, road vehicles, which are among most used, design of roads, design and construction of buildings, which you can see was one of the biggest procurement groups in regarding the value, the money spent. And we are now, this design or construction of buildings is obligatory only for administrative and I would say business buildings of the government. Now we are prolonging this with the new decree, which I hope it will be adopted this summer, even to more other buildings, probably kindergarten, schools, hospitals, all other buildings that are built in the public sector. Of course, tires, road lighting, cleaning product, gardening services, and we are thinking of adding the furniture, doors, windows. We are thinking of adding the in the decree, but we need to have this. We need to put on same page several ministry of fence beside the roads, that they should be greener. I would say healthier wooden. We hope that between ministry there will be a compromise, and this can also become an obligatory procurement item. So those, you see, electricity, visions to tires and gardening services, those are all the procurement groups that they're actually obligatory today. And these bring us to 1/3 of the public procurement in Slovenia is sustainable, is green. And we are not just, what was one of the problems in the past, that we put recommendation directly in the decree. Of course, through the time, you know, the green vehicle is not green anymore. The things are improving. So now with only the goal, 15% of the green vehicle, by the way, the new decree will go on 22% of each procurement needs to be, the vehicles needs to be green, meaning that slowly in 5 to 6, 7 years, the fleet will getting more and more green. I would say totally green. That actually we put the specific recommendation to the guidelines, and we can change, and we are changing the guidelines constantly, so they're actually up to date. And the goal is staying the same: 15% of the vehicles, I don't know, 40% of on the for example, buildings, and so on. You will discuss probably later on with more experts than I am, actually where and how to put the green sustainable criteria in procurement. We discussed that before through the procurement, I would say, terminology, technical specification, award selection criteria. But now you can see on this map actually that you can put the green demand in almost everything: design, production, packing, distribution, usage, maintenance, reusage, recycling. This can be part of actually every demand of the public procurement. One of the biggest problem in the, of course, procurement is that it's becoming with that more and more complex, and that the contracting authorities, the public servants, needs to get this knowledge how to use it. And so it's not, as I said, enough that only we have a degree. We need to have a professional public servant. I told you how to include green in even before subject of procurement. For example, green vehicles for government, technical specification, award criteria, you will see it on the vehicles, how we use it, contract clause selection criteria. But this demands changing the requirements all the time. This is one of the most challenging aspects of the green procurement, because it actually never stops. It's every year, it's a little bit different. And for the small contracting authorities, that is really demanding. That's why we established in Slovenia special contact. Usually, the main critic is that it's expensive. Of course, at the beginning, sometimes yes, and sometimes you try to bundle this with the centralized procurement, we see that the price can even go down, but the disposal and usage is put into the LCC in the price itself, in the value of the procurement good. And at the end, of course, the government, the public buyers can spend less money. For example, I remember when we were buying photocopying machines 15 years ago, even more, 20 years ago, the government sees that if they are buying just machine itself, it's expensive if it's not including the usage of the paper or the usage of the electricity. And we didn't know actually that we can call this a green procurement, but it was wisely to do so. I would say just from the experience, if you are not using, I don't know, even the cost of the toners in the LCC, then at the end you are losing your money. And I will try to lead you through two cases. One is personal computers. Of course, you can see at the beginning the subject matter is already green. Energy efficient personal computers, technical specification, latest Energy Star, sound power level which is below 36 decibels, and user instructions for IT support. So these are technical specifications used for promoting green criteria in procurement. Not only this, beside price, we are trying to introduce award criteria with less energy usage. And this is award criteria, so the price plus energy consumption is calculated from the usage of the power consumption of the computer when it's in sleep and when it's on mode, and the price, of course, of the electricity. So in the lifespan, I would say 3 to 5 years, we can actually really see from today's point, we don't know how the electricity, and of course, we are not visionaries, but from today's points, we can see which computer is in the usage in the 5 years more value and more energy efficient. So actually, we are on the long term, we are buying cheaper, not expensive. This is one of the most important points we are always trying. Personal vehicles. This is a little bit, the formula looks a little bit complicated, but it's the same as before. Price plus LCC, where the LCC is in 200,000 kilometers, that expected lifetime. How much emission, how much the car pollutes, how much emission of the CO2, NO2 particulate matter is going to the environment, and how much of energy we are losing of not buying an efficient vehicle. And then we use additional criteria, of course. For example, pressure monitoring system, which is also energy non-efficient, gear change indicator, and so on. So we try to also measure those things through different award criteria. And this is one example of the price of, you see, price of the vehicle is 18,000, and the price of all the other factors are almost doubling, 30 to 40% putting on the price. So it's not happen very often, but sometimes I would say in 10 to 15% in our central joint procurement, actually the bidders who are most, I would say, less expensive, they are not getting because they are not energy efficient. They are not getting the bits. They are not getting the contract at the end. It's not happening often, but it's happening sometimes. So now there is that. This is one of the criteria, I would say, on green procurement. But beside that, the decree is also saying, not just using these criteria, but is saying that at least 15% of the vehicles needs to be, I would say, totally green. So at least 15% this year, we are buying 17% of electrical or hybrid vehicles, beside using this formula in buying classical, I would say, gas on cars on run by fuel. I will slowly end my presentation. What I want to say is that I was really astonished when I see this picture that was in 2009 in Reykjavik conference, saying that in approximately, and that was 2009, when we have more optimistic numbers, that in 100 years, those will be the position of the cities regarding the temperature. And you can see in Africa, Barcelona and Berlin, in Spain, London and Stockholm, and Helsinki and St. Petersburg in Eastern European, Eastern EU. So we all think that, of course, green procurement, green public procurement is necessary, but it's demanding. I would say it's complex. It demands skills. It takes more time. So on the other hand, when we are discussing this, we need to acknowledge that the procurement, public procurement rules itself needs to be much simpler, so that we are not getting too much of the complex environment where at the end we are not getting enough bits, goods, and contracts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matas, for your very interesting and nice presentation. Now we have some minutes of time for questions and comments from the participants. So there are, as I know, several participants coming from regional governments and other public institutions. So I think there will be questions for Mr. Matas. So please go ahead. So then I would like to, it seems still the participants need some more encouragement before putting questions. So I will go ahead with this. So I'm also checking this live discussion board. So you mentioned in the beginning that the target was very optimistic, but you said that there was some time delay, and still it was okay that within 3 to 4 years you were able to come to 45% instead of 50%. But on the operational level, how was this done? Were you here in Slovenia? Were you doing some training and workshops for contracting authorities to make this decree live?
Yes, we try to make it more popular. Those who are coming from Slovenia know Sumanotera, the NGO dealing with the the climate changes, and we try to invite them. So we were having the conferences, workshops at the beginning, of course, trying to establish the guidelines. There were some guidelines, and we try to translate them. But then slowly we are building on, let's say, our own guidelines. And then after several years, we see if we would like to make a big change, a bigger step, that we need to actually have a decree. And as I said, among member states, we are one of the rare, and I think even we are the first country to have a special obligatory law.
I see. And what can you say about the contracting authorities? Usually, I know, let's say, from my practice, that these procedures are done by our lawyers. Do they have sufficient level of knowledge to introduce all these novelties that are required by going ahead with these procedures?
Yeah, at the beginning, that was one of the biggest, and it's still one of the challenges, having the professional public buyers. But that's why we establish and we are having the guidelines, specially designed with the decree. Not only the decree, you need to buy 15% of the vehicles and do it as you would like, and we don't care. No, it's a decree. Then we have guidelines, specially adopted. And then, of course, we have the contact points that each contracting authority can use that. Usually, it's not the lawyers who are excellent in this, but there are, I would say, procurement specialists, experts, and those are now on the line ministries helping each of the contracting authorities to procure different items. Yes, but without that, it would be almost impossible, because you can imagine that small contracting authority, one person is responsible for everything, for procurement, for the I don't know, for the legal matters, for the, and of course she or he cannot know a lot about the green sustainable criteria. She can use it. So we try to put this in the guidelines, and of course they can use it. And now I think after now it's 10 years we have this decree, we can see a really good progress also in changing the mindset of the contracting authority. But for example, it's not just the green procurement itself. The green procurement is, I would say, part in the mosaic. For example, if we are making obligatory for the electric cars, for, I don't know, ministry, of course they need to have the infrastructure. And we also discuss this with the other ministries, that it's not only the green procurement, but the infrastructure, everything, it goes with demands on the green procurement.
Okay, thank you. So there are two questions on the live discussion board. So I think that one of them will be more suitable for the next speaker, but one would be, I think, addressed to Mr. Mata. So I will read the question. So the question is, who needs training of on life cycle costing for public procurement? Civil servants, small and medium enterprises, and who is the best relay to multiply messages locally?
Albin, I didn't hear you good. Can you repeat the question on the microphone?
Yeah, the question is, who needs training on LCC for public procurement? Are these civil servants, small and medium enterprises? And then the second question is, who is the best relay to multiply messages locally?
Okay. We have usually the training is for the contracting authorities, but also the SMEs were included. But these were done with our Chamber of Economy. Together with them, we try to have this workshop. But we are a small team, and we are trying to do as much as we can. On the local side, we try to engage in the process for the bigger municipalities, different municipalities, and the stakeholders which are representing those municipalities. In Slovenia, we have the three stakeholders representing the town municipalities. So always, even now when we are changing the decree, we enter the discussion about the novelties in the decree with them. So we get quite a good response. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it is too much of the burden for the local community. Sometimes we get even good proposals. So with the local communities, we are on green procurement, we are working always really.
Okay, thank you. And yes,
And I don't know if there's time for another question linked with the last one.
there will
And
be
so,
we have time for one more question for Mr. Matas. Yes.
thank you. So linked with the last question, and it is about reception in local SMEs and how much the environmental criteria award local Slovenian SMEs, or if you have some data, if the environmental criteria are effectively fostering, pushing for a bit more of sustainable production in Slovenia, or if you have a foreign companies applying to procurement?
Yeah, thank you. Really good question, because the localization of the procurement was always one of the topics having the green procurement. For example, introducing more wood. Slovenia is rich with wood, more wood into the buildings and other criteria. I don't know, I don't have data on SMEs, especially on green procurement, but actually in Slovenia, the SMEs are included more than 70% in procurement. They're getting more than 70% of the bids. In EU, we are one of the highest nations having that, probably also because we are a small producer, is actually not an issue. But for example, the green procurement was also used to stimulate, for example, local, to stimulate the usage of the local farmers, being more closely to the local, I don't know, schools, kindergartens, which are of course production authorities. This is one of the purposes also of course of the green procurement. Thank you.
So thank you very much. At this point, I would like to thank Mr. Sašo Matas for participating at the transnational learning journey and to give a talk on the regulation on green procurement in Slovenia. So thank you very much for being with us. And I know that you are on vacations, but still, if you have time, you are more than welcome to stay further and attending the event. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. So the next presentation will be given by Mr. Matej Cerovšek. Mr. Cerovšek comes from the Ministry of the Environment and Spatial Planning of the Republic of Slovenia, and he will give a talk entitled Life Cycle Methodologies in Slovenian Green Public Procurement. Please.
Thank you. Just tell me if you can hear me and if you can see the presentation.
Yes, everything is fine. So please go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. My name is Matej Cerovšek. I come from the GPP team of Slovenia. We are part of a project called Care for Climate, and today I'm going to present you how we use life cycle methodologies in Slovenian GPP directly and indirectly. So this is the content. I will first present you what kind of activities include LCC life cycle methodologies in our project, how we use LCC in green public procurement. A lot of this was already said, and how we use LCA indirectly in our GPP. So the purpose of our project, the Care for Climate, is boosting greenhouse gas emissions reduction by promoting sustainable transport, energy efficiency, renewable energy, sustainable climate protecting land use, all with transitioning to low carbon society. Because the environmental goal is, the environmental problems are quite wide. We have more areas. We cover more areas in our project. One is green public procurement, but we also cover food waste reduction, prevention, sustainable mobility, energy efficient buildings, land use change and forestry, and also the awareness raising and capacity building, which is also important. Because there are many areas, we are not alone, just our Ministry for the Environment and Spatial Planning. We also have, we are cooperating with 14 other organizations One of them is also before mentioned Umanotera, some NGOs, ministries, a lot of organizations. Just a few numbers. This is from the year 2019 about GDP in Slovenia. 11% of GDP is public procurement. If you look at the EU level, it's 14%. So if you know Slovenia, the country is quite small. We have 2 million people, but we have quite a huge number of public procurers, and this is where also the problems lie, because you should imagine if we have 2 million people, we do not have 3,000 public procurement experts. 19% of all public procurement involves at least one environmental aspect. So this is this 19% is green. We also in our project strive for this to be even higher. And as it was said before, in our GBP regulation, 20 product groups, product subjects are obligatory. So if you procure food, vehicles, buildings, some buildings, electronic devices, you have to achieve environmental goal that is set in our regulation. What we do in our project is promote GPP, and we also do capacity building for public procurers on GPP. This is one way in how we want to achieve even higher percentages of green public procurement. We conduct workshops in different regions according to the demand and needs. Because of Corona, they were conducted through Zoom meetings. We conducted, I think, until now about, I don't know, 12, 13. We conducted them for strictly for public procurers. We also are doing some workshops for faculty, for law faculties, because we want to start even earlier. And the next step, we will also have workshops for private sector. So for those on the other side, we also have a help desk. So this is complementary to the contact points that were mentioned before by Mr. Matas. So we are help desk. We offer expert assistance for anything related to GPP. We also prepare materials, promo materials with some basic information to help public procurers. You should know that public procurers in Slovenia usually have one person that is in charge of public procurement, and this person is not really an expert in cleaning services or in furniture or in vehicles. That's why we prepare those materials so they can easily and quickly get to some information. And now we're also preparing model tender documentation. So this will be made until the end of this year, so that public authorities can easily use environmental criteria as requirements. So in all of those activities, we include LCC, so life cycle cost. We share awareness that they shouldn't just look at the price, but they should look at the whole purchase cost, the cost of use, and also the cost of disposal. One of these activities is, as I mentioned before, promo material, and one of these is here. This is LCC brochure that we prepared for public procurers, and they can get some info on how to use them, what conditions should be met when they set these methods. Why is it important that, as it was mentioned before, that it's of course cheaper if you look at some cases, and we, yes, that's why we prepared those brochures. One of the more important activities is conducting impact analysis of GPP in Slovenia. As you heard, we have GPP for some years, but we never measured what kind of impacts does this regulation have on environment or economic and social. So we will look into that in the coming years. We will conduct this analysis in 3 parts. First will be made by pilot analysis, which will be conducted this year, and we'll look in the what kind of impacts do on a smaller scale, so not on the scale of the whole country. So we can test our contracting party if is good enough, if they're good enough. On the second part, we will conduct impact analysis on the scale of the whole country, because we want to know what kind of impacts do all the procurement has. And on the third part, we will monitor these impacts and also present the results publicly, and in that way promote GPP. So these are these are some of the product groups that are covered in our GPP regulation. They are, if you can see, they are quite different, which is also one of the problems of GPP, because you need not just the expert for public procurement, you need experts for computers or electronic devices, tires, furniture, vehicles, and buildings. But if you look all of them, it's one thing is of course the same. You can look at it as an what kind of life cycle cost do they have. So if we look at what LCC is, it's a technique which enables comparative cost assessment to be made over a specified period of time, taking into account all relevant economic factors, so not just the price. The price is the one that is usually used in Slovenia in most cases, but we try to promote that they use, and as a award criteria, some kind of LCC method. This LCC method, of course, should include purchase costs. So every cost that is not just the price, but every cost that that occur before we use the product. Then we have cost of use. So this is electricity, water, petrol, all the other that are connected with the usage, and of course the cost of removal. But sometimes we can get here a profit if we sell this. LCC in Slovenian procurement law should be used more frequently, can be used as an award criteria, but 3 conditions must be met. It must be based on objectively verifiable and non-discriminatory criteria. It must be available to all interested parties, and the required data can be obtained with a reasonable effort. So if those 3 conditions are met, you can make your LCC method. Every public procurer can prepare it. So there was one question about this LCC, how to set it. I don't know, for buses. I think that you should look at first. You should make a market research and see what kind of what kind of buses they can offer you. Then you should look at infrastructure. If you have infrastructure, buy all the electric buses. But if you don't have, you should set LCC in that way that it takes into account all the costs. So for example, all the petrol, also it's important that you take into account how you're going to use it. So because if you look at the computer, you use it when I'm on duty. I use it for smaller tasks. I just need, I don't know, Microsoft Excel. But if I use it at home, I use it, I don't know, for movies and games. So which is which uses more energy. And also for the buses, these local buses, you know that they stop, that make, I don't know, 200 stops a day. So you should take into account also in what way you're going to use your vehicle. This was presented before. So this is LCC formula that is used for vehicles in Slovenia. It's a must use, so it's not, it's obligatory. For all the other products, you can, public procurers can make their own LCC. This LCC includes price, mileage, energy consumption cost, and also the emission costs. So for different carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, non-methane, hydrocarbons, and hard particles. There are few variations of this LCC. So you saw one before where there was price plus LCC. Okay, that is okay. But you also can include price in the LCC. So, but there's a common mistake in Slovenia that we have LCC plus price, but also this LCC formula already includes the price. So this is a mistake, because the price will then have a higher meaning. So you should, there's also modification for electric cars. So you should really take into account battery life, mileage that you can get with one whole battery, and so on. So everything that is important to you, the way you use the product or vehicle should be taken into account into the LCC. So the LCC should be really different for one product, should be really different for one public authority or other. If we look at, so this is how we use LCC directly. So we set it as an award criteria. The life cycle assessment is used in Slovenia indirectly, and I will tell you in the coming slides how. So the LCA does not only look at the cost, but looks at environmental impact. So LCA is a methodology for assessing environmental impacts associated with all stages of life cycle of product or service. In my opinion, this is one of the most important methods for evaluating important environmental impacts, and should represent a basis for decision making in your organization. So you should look at different phases of this cycle, and you should look, okay, where is it that the environment is affected the most? So this is one of more common division of phases. There are some variations. So the first one is how we get resources, the transportation, the production, operation. So this is operation or use, and of course recycling and end of life. And this is of course the life cycle assessment. Each of the product that we use has an environmental impact in each of those phases. In the coming slides, we will look at how we use this method. How is it used in Slovenia? Because it's not so clear that it's used. The way we used our GPP regulation is we have GPP regulation that states for 20 product groups environmental goals. Then we also have a public procurement law, which is a kind of a framework on how to use this law. But both are not really specific enough to use these environmental criteria requirements. That's why we have national GPP examples of these criteria and requirements, also EU GPP examples and others that public procurers can set for themselves. And all of these, especially with national GPP examples, those are most frequent. You can make a GPP compliant tender documentation. So if you look at this slide, you cannot see an LCA here, no LCA method, but they are of course included in the EU GPP examples. You should know that our national GPP examples come from EU GPP examples, and the EU GPP examples are set in Spain, in this institute in Seville, and they of course do the LCA analysis on what kind of impacts does, I don't know, tire has in the production phase, when you dispose it, and in all the phases. So that's how how the LCA methods are indirectly used. You won't find any LCA methods directly in the tenders, as far as I can say. So now we'll look at the different phases and how we can include the green aspects in those, how would we say, different phases. So the first one is the resources. If you look at this presentation, you can see that in Slovenia we really like wood. So when you procure furniture, it must come from a wood source that is legal, and it must contain at least 70% of wood. We also promote that you should use the recycled furniture. For the buildings, of course, 30% of the products that are included in this building should be made of wood. So you can see that we really like wood. And if you build roads, you should use recycled asphalt granulate for the base layer. If you look at the transportation, this is especially for food. We promoted the distance from the supplier, from the public procurer to the supplier should be short. If you shorten the distance, you also lower the impact on the environment. In this point, I would also touch there was question before about promoting local and promoting Slovenian. I think that it's not always the same, because Slovenia is quite small, and if you live at the border, I don't know if you are at Nova Gorica or a town that's in the border, procuring locally doesn't always mean procuring Slovenian, and I think that's I cannot see the problem in this. I think that we should promote local food, if it's Slovenian or Italian. The transportation, we can also oblige the supplier that it uses electric vehicles, so some kind of a sustainable means of transport. And in case if we organize an event, the venue should be accessible by public transport. In the production packaging phase, so this is true for all the product groups. We should use packaging made of recycled materials. In the production of paper, we should look at what kind of emissions do we produce. This is really quite common in Slovenian tenders. In the textile department, we should look at what kind of colors we use. So we shouldn't use colors that are, I would say, dangerous for people. And in the food department, at least 12% of food should be produced in organic way. So should be organic. In the coming years, those percentages will be 15%. But I think, as I saw, the tenders, the public procurers set this even higher than 12%. So in the food department, we have also some web tool that helps our public procurers, and that's why I think that 99% of procurement of food is green. In the operation use phase, there is a lot of environmental requirements and criteria. In electronic department, in electronic equipment, we strive for the purchase of highest rank energy class. This is also true for all the other devices that use electric, and it's also used for tires, also used for all the products that have some kind of energy classes. Also, the noise shouldn't exceed some kind of set limit. We also want to have a long warranty and spare parts availability. When we use water, so in the sanitary equipment area, we should limit the use of water. And if we look at vehicles, it was said before, 15% of them should be electric, and that means that they use renewable energies. If we look at end of life, what kind of environmental requirements and criteria can be set? So in the vehicle department, this is quite common. When we buy vehicles, the supplier obliges to buy back old vehicles, or it's some kind of obligation. What should he do with them? In the furniture also, the supplier commonly takes this old furniture back, because there's also a technical reason, because we need space. And in case of events, we should take care of appropriate waste separation. So if you want to know more about our project, you can check our website that is published on the first slide. I hope I was able to give you some insight on how we use this life cycle methods in Slovenia. They are not really used directly, but they're used indirectly through these criteria. So the criteria, award criteria, requirements. So we really promote those, but I think that the big step will also be made in the coming years, when we conduct all those workshops and activities that we set in our project. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carošek, for your presentation, which is now open for questions and comments from the participants. So earlier during the previous presentation, we were not able to address all the questions which have appeared either here in the chart area or on the live discussion board. So I will go ahead with this, okay? So there was one question from Fritz Balkau earlier, and the question goes like this: how to recognize a green product? Can you comment on this?
Okay, this is a quite wide question, how to recognize. So I think that every public authority, public procurer should do a market research and see what's available on the market, because that's if something is not available in the market, you cannot buy it. So this is the first thing. And the second, I think that you should help yourself with some kind of certificates, so environmental certificates that can help you. Because we are not experts in food, we are not experts in textiles, furniture, but these kind of labels, eco-labels, can help us recognize which are green. Also, you should use energy labels. They should help you with the energy consumption. Yes, that's my opinion on how to easily recognize green products.
Okay, so and then the next question is here from this from the live discussion board, and it says the following: Slovenia and Italy have a very long history of mandatory minimum environmental criteria. How much does this help or foster life cycle approaches?
So it does in the vehicle department, because life cycle LCC formula was obligatory. In all the other departments, I wouldn't say as much. So the LCC formula is really used in the vehicle departments, electric vehicles. There are some modifications, and maybe in some cases of electronic equipment. But other than that, I don't think that it's not so easy to use. We already translated some LCC tools, but when we looked at them, I think that they are not as easy to use. So I think that the next step will be some kind of internet tool that will help, web tool that will help them calculate CO2 emissions, what kind of cost does each product have. So I think that if we don't come to this web tool, this won't be promoted and this won't be used as it should be.
I see. So here in the chat area, there are two questions from our colleague Adam from Poland. So first of all, he thanks you for your interesting presentation. And then the question goes at the following: what do you think is the most serious challenge for green public procurement in Slovenia? Is it energy efficiency of buildings due to the diverse climate in your country?
I have to think this a bit. In Slovenia, I think that this is true for public procurers and the private sector. I think they don't know, they know too little. So, but of course, if we strive for higher and higher, of course, we will never know as much as we should. So I think all the promoting and workshops, promotional materials, and that we want to equip them, and we want them to be not to be nervous when they procure, but to be relaxed, to have a confidence to procure innovative. So I think that this is probably one of the problems, the knowledge. The problem not just in Slovenia is also greenwashing. I think we should address that. We should because you should just look at the documentary Conspiracy, and you will see where the problem lie. So if there is those organizations are not always really independent, so because they need money. So this is one of the problems. This should be probably addressed in the EU level. In Slovenia, I think that just giving the people the knowledge, giving the people the web tool. So as I told you, we have a online web tool for food, and that's why 99% of procurement of food is green and more than green. So I think that these are the challenges.
Okay, thank you. And now there is a question from our colleague Jolanta from Lithuania. This is what she wrote in the chat. Thank you very much for very interesting presentation. Could you please a little bit describe more in detail how Slovenia started the use of LCA and LCC in the green public procurement? And then the question continues, what were the first steps and who were initiators?
I'm quite new at this area, so maybe if Mr. Matas is with us, he can tell you more about this. If I can tell you just how this GPP regulation and these criteria were set, they were looked at EU GPP criteria. There were also some experts were included. And also there was a market research on what the market can offer us, and that's the way they were set. But if you would like to know how to start from the beginning, I would say that you should include as much as independent experts as you have in your country on each department, and you should ask them what kind of what they think. So because this should be first part, and then you should look at the market and include also them. So I don't know the whole history of how this was set. I know just this Mr. Mata said. So we set these 12 product groups and then 20 product groups, and most of our criteria, I would say all, come from EU GPP examples of those criteria and requirements. So I will look at those. I think they are good, but we have problems with our private sector, because sometimes they think that something is unnecessary, or maybe that it could be a way to be more green. So, and I think you should listen to those people, because you know that every country has how would I say, its agenda. So in Slovenia, it's wood agenda, and we have some agenda in the lightening of our road department. And in those cases, you shouldn't follow those agenda. You should follow the experts. Of course, it's hard to know which experts are, because if you want to check an expert, you should be an expert. So it's quite hard in that regard.
Okay, thank you. I am afraid that Mr. Matas is not any longer with us today, so thank you for your answers to these questions that were posed by Jolanta. But if in the future, if needed, we can create a correspondence between project partners and experts here in Slovenia, so that all these further questions could be addressed in more detail. So
yes, I'm able to invite to some I don't know, Zoom meeting, and I will get the person that knows this, so they can get answers. So I'm sorry because I wasn't able to provide all the answers, but I'm able to, after these meetings, I'm able to provide it, make a meeting, or no problem. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there is one more question, which was also here written earlier by Adam. So it's about the green fleet. So the question goes like this: regarding the green fleet, what is the preferred propulsion for the purchase of public transport, buses and rolling stock for railways, for example, for larger cities? How is the LCC or LCA methodologies used there?
Okay, so this, I addressed this a bit in my presentation. So first thing I think you should look is if you can really use open procedure, or maybe you should use any other procedures that are available. because this is really not just vehicles, also infrastructure. So this is a wider problem. So on the second part, I think that you should look at infrastructure if you have the availability. You should buy the electric. You should buy those who do not use petrol, so that those emissions in the city are not so high. So this is also one of the parts. But if you cannot buy electric, you should set this LCC formula in that way that it includes so more electric vehicles, that the emissions aren't high. You should really look at the way this is used, because the buses in the city are different. You use them in a different way than buses on a long distance, because you have many stops. So you should look at what kind of costs occur in that way of using buses. So you have, I don't know, transmission should be transmission failures should be more frequent, and the gas consumption is really different if you stop a lot, the brakes. And I think you should look at that. I'm not really an expert in that. My father is a mechanic, so I know a little bit, but I think you should really really look at infrastructure. The first, really using, if you want to use open procedure or any kind of other procedures, and then the way you will use the buses.
Thank you, Matej.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think there are at the moment no more questions from the participants. So I would like to have to give one question which is related to the first part of your presentation. You mentioned that at the ministry, regarding the green public procurement and the use of LCA methodologies, you have also established a help desk, and that you are also organizing workshops for contracting authorities. So can you tell me a bit more about these workshops? For how long time do they last, so that the contracting authorities could get sufficient expertise and knowledge, and then
Okay.
in order to participate then in such kind of tenders?
Okay, so I will tell you the steps on how to do workshops, because we did them from the scratch. So they were made I think they were about 5 workshops in whole Slovenia until year 2020 when we started. We are first included not as an organizer, but as a party, as I'm today, about 2-3 of those workshops. But then we decided to make our own program. First thing you should do, you should get a base of all the public procurers that you have in your country. You should maybe divide them into into what they do, because in that way you can make the program even more specified. Because library is interested in procuring something else than school, and school is interested in procuring something else as a I don't know, some company that takes your garbage. And then you should divide it into we divide it into 2 models. So one is how would we say, this basic knowledge, and then a bit higher, so intermediate, we should call it. So in the basic department, we told the public procurers in about, I think, 3 hours what is GPP, when is it obligatory, how they can use, and also we presented practically how they can include those environmental goals, how they can achieve those goals on few products. So we choose vehicles, we choose buildings, electronic devices, all of those. So you should get some practical examples. Before a workshop, you should also invite them to give you questions in that way. And we also show them how you can use LCC methodology in the case of vehicles. We also addressed some problems that they had. So those are practical problems. As far as we saw, the most problems lie in the how how they can know if some private company gave them the right information, if they are true, how they can verify them. So in this verify department, I think it's the most problems in Slovenia. And then we said the next module was intermediate module. We invited two of I would say our best lawyers in public procurement in Slovenia, and we have a combination of a bit of what we already set on the first, but we have also this practical workshop where they for themselves could make a tender documentation. And so this was more intermediate because I am a lawyer, but I'm not specialized in practical. So you need someone that is practically. And I think that one model should be also made in the way that it concentrates on one product. So we have a workshop for paper. We invited expert. He was independent expert on paper, and we also invited one how do I say private company that prints so that that you can get paper from. So, and those are the models you should always we always strive for doing workshops for specific procurers. That is always the easiest way, because they have some questions and you always give them the info that they need, because they say, for example, we had a workshop for specific procurer and he sent us the tender documentation, the questions, and which product groups they are interested in. So I would say you should set them in this way, and this is one of the next steps, as we made it workshops for Faculty of Law. We have 3 faculties of law in Slovenia, but in my opinion, none of them teach anything about GPP. That's not a criticism, that's how it is. But I think that we are the ones that should do that job, because most of the people from there will be, I don't know, will be then in their career will need this knowledge. So I hope I was clear.
Albin, we cannot hear you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Cerovšek, for being here with us today, and I thank you on behalf of all of us for the very nice and interesting presentation delivered during the TLJ4 event. We have to move forward, although there are 2 more questions and for you, but this we will address these questions to you later. So thank you very much. So we will now move forward to the 3rd presentation, and this presentation comes from France. It will be given by Miss Marie Doril. I'm sorry, and I apologize in advance if my pronunciation is not okay. And she comes from the Eco Transition Deployment Center in France, and the presentation is entitled "The Green Clause Web Tool for Green Public Procurement." So please go ahead to your talk.
Good morning, Albin. Good morning, everybody. First, I would like to thank you for inviting us, Anthony and I, in your meeting in order to present our web tool. I just will let my colleague Anthony Delabroix, who is manager of the web tool, to introduce himself, and then I will be able to go through the presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm I launched clause last. I am a consultant in sustainable public purchasing. On my mission in CD2E is to massively sustainable public purchasing in the Hauts-de-France region. The Green Plus contributes to this objective resource operational toll. I don't speak English, so Marie Darul will present this to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
But please put into the presentation mode, okay?
Okay. So I will present the green clause, la clause verte in French, in 2 times. First time, a quick presentation about our structure and how was built this tool. And the second step of my presentation will be a live presentation on the web tool, because I think it is the best way to show you how it is working. So it's my first presentation of this tool in English, so I try to make it as very clear and understandable. If you can't understand me, please tell me. So just to present you CD2E, our structure, we are based in Hauts-de-France region. It's a region of France, in the very north of France. Our structure was created in 2002, and it aims to train company and territories and to support companies and territories to go toward ecological transition. So we are about 40 people now working on 4 units. The first one is a sustainable building unit. We are working with project owners, with territories, and also with building companies in order to make buildings more sustainable. So from a point of view of energy consumption, we are working both of new construction and refurbishment. We are also working about comfort in the building and, for example, indoor air quality. The second unit is about circular economy. This unit aims to work on the resources for building and other sectors. So we've been working for a long time about LCA, life cycle analysis, on buildings and products. We are also working to develop the use of biosource products in the building sector. Building product as strawberries, as hempcrete, for example. And also to develop the use of polluted sediments and water. The third unit is about renewable energy, and we work with regional actors in order to develop the use of solar energy as a principal energy. And there is a fourth unit, which is very new. It was created in 2019. It's the Sustainable Public Procurement unit, and Anthony is the manager of this unit. Missions of CD2E. In fact, to meet the regional and national and international environmental goals, we are working with economic actors and territories to adopt sustainable businesses. And for that, we provide strategic and technical support, communication, and to promote the regional know-how, goods and service offer. Also, we organize workshops, trainings, visits, and conferences to upgrade stakeholders' skills. We have strong work about how to support the development of new economic and sustainable sectors. And finally, we create and animate a regional network, and we try to develop the share of good practices, of feedback about the subject we are working on. To speak more about the public purchasing unit, so the unit was created in 2019. It's come from the fact that we have been working for 20 years on developing and structure new economic and sustainable sectors, and to massify the use of these new products or new services. It was very important to work with the demand. Just to let you know that in France, the public purchasing represents about 10% of the gross domestic product, and it's about 200 billions of euros. So it's very important to work with the purchaser in order to help them to ask for green solutions. And the work of this sustainable public procurement unit at CETOI for 1 year was to develop and to launch the Green Clause web tool, so in French, la clause verte, and the tool I am going to introduce you. Just about the tool very quickly, it aims to lift constraints when a purchaser are willing to ask for green solution. They may fear to ask for this green solution because they have a fear of litigation, or they don't have the technical expertise to do so. So the Green Clause aims to help the public purchaser to define his needs, taking into account the environmental aspect. The second goal of this tool is to propose ready-to-use environmental clauses in the purchaser can write in the technical specification, and make it make the purchaser very quick to look for and to find the good clause. So now the tool count like 140 clauses, and so far the more than 13 people have used the website. And just to have an idea, is like there are like 130 public purchasers in France. So we are very happy of the use of the website for the first year. So the Green Clause is a resource tool. We wanted to make it as simple as possible with an ergonomic interface. It is free and open to anybody. You don't need to register to use this tool. It is a tool participatory. We have been working to build a strong network of experimented public purchaser and resource center who are contributing and proposing clauses they have already used, for example. So we want, in fact, to make it like a Wikipedia of the clause, so everybody can contribute if they have already used environmental clauses. It is working. They can implement the clause in the website. And progressive is that for the moment we have 140, but we are expecting the web tool to count more like 1,000 clauses in few years. And then it's a place where you can find ready-to-use technical and legal solutions and clauses about several thematics with big environmental issue. So, for example, for construction, bio-based materials, BIM, reuse, renewable energies, and so on. So there is a website and a link to a video on YouTube. You can see for the moment the tool is only in French, sorry. But as the EU law fix a minimal regulation for call for public procurement, we would like to make it more international and to work at a European level. It would be very interesting. The main partner of this project, so we work with the French government, the ADEME, which is the French National Agency for Energy, the region Hauts-de-France, which is our region, to Interreg, the European Commission, the National Institute for Circular Economy, the LCA4 agglomeration, FIBA, which is a structure who aims to develop the use of wood in construction and in energy sectors, and other regions like Haute-Garonne and Grand Est, and finally VNF, who is responsible for the rivers in France. So far, La Classe Verte had a high coverage in the media, both in general websites or specialized press. So, for example, in Le Moniteur, which is one of the biggest media about building sector in France. La Voix du Nord, which is a local newspaper for north of France, or Actu Environnement, which is a reference website about environment in France. And the contact of, as Anthony told you, is the manager of the Sustainable Public Purchasing Unit at CD2E. So if you need, if you have any question about the tool, you can ask him. And for my part, I am the assistant manager of the circular economy unit. So I'm working more about biosource products and also life cycle analysis. But I can help Anthony to understand your question and to translate if needed.
Thank you very much for your presentation regarding the web tool for green public procurement. So there is a question in the chat area posted by Yolanta, and it goes the following. Thank you for your very interesting presentation. You have mentioned that you are planning to work internationally. However, the tool is only in French. Are you planning to translate it into other languages?
Yes, it is something we haven't planned it yet, but I think we think that the collaborative tool could be interesting in different countries. So for the moment, we are looking for a way to do so, to translate, and maybe to have a version of this tool in English or in different languages. But for that, we need to find some partners So yes, we'll be very interested, but for the moment it's not planned, but it's really something to do. And just Albin, I finished the first part of the presentation, but now if I have time, I would like just to show you the website. Is this possible?
Okay, we can go ahead. We can go ahead with your presentation of the website. Yes, please.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. So this is a tool, La Creuse Verte. So you can find on internet. Just moving this. Okay. So this is who are we? The list of clauses, contact, news, videos, and if you need more information about if you are public procedure and you want more information about technical stuff or green clauses, you can ask CD2 to have more information. So just to see, there is a search engine to find the good clause. Here you can find, let's look for the clause with keywords. Here is a typology of market, of recruitment. So it's about new work, rehabilitation, roadway, supply, and services. And here are the green, the thematic you can work on and to find, you can find a clause for with the thematic with great environmental issues. For example, here you get for food, for beam, for wood, hemp, building waste, water, sustainable design, eco-design, renewable energy, digital, construction in straw bale, and indoor air quality, sediments, and transport. So it's always evolving. So you've got every month or every 2 months a new type of a new sector which is integrated to the website. So if I want, for example, please consider I am working for the regional council of Hauts-de-France, so our region, and I would like I am responsible for building a new a project of lycée or college, and I wanted to make it in straw bale. So I want to see how to integrate it in my call for tender and in the special technical specification. So, for example, so this is new construction, and I am choosing straw bale. So search. And here you will find the list of clauses you can use. So, for example, for this one is the properties of the straw bale you can use, and the public purchaser is going to ask in his technical specification, because to build in straw according to French regulation, construction regulation, you need to have very precise, very specific straw bales, for example. So here you've got several words. So on the top line, it's when you can use the clause. So for example, here's about work, different state, at which stage in your process you can use the clause. So in yellow, it's like when you are looking for the technical program manager. In red, when you are looking for the companies to build, for example, your college. And there is another one, which is when you are writing the project and you are looking for an assistant to the contracting authorities. And the second line in blue is in which document you have to use the clause. So in the clear blue, it's like tender rules, and in the blue, dark blue is in the technical specification. So for example, I am looking for the properties of the straw bale. So you can see in with, as I told you, it is a participatory tool. So there are several structures who can put and implement their clauses. So for this one, for example, it is a CD2E, a clause coming from CD2E, but if you're looking on others, so it's also CD2E, but you can find other structure who have proposed their clauses. So I am just choosing this clause. So yes, I would like to know how to write the properties of straw bale I am waiting for. So here it's a presentation of the clause. So it's just saying that it is straw bale is a very good insulation, resist to fire resistant, and it needs to be well built. So for example, the clause is here. It's saying that the straw bale has to have the good density, which has to be more than 80% kilogram per cubic meter. When you put the string around the straw bale, you have to do it with strings of type 350, and the hygrometry of the straw bale has to be less than 30% of the straw bale mass when you are doing the straw bale, and 20 when you are implementing it in the building. So this is the clause. You can, as a public purchaser, just copy and paste it in your technical specification. And here you have got more information. So it's more about, for example, from where are coming these characteristics and properties of straw bales. It makes a link with the French professional rules to use straw bale in construction. So you have a link, and then it opens the website of the French text. And then you can have a link with other clauses which are related to straw bale construction. So for example, in these professional rules in France about straw bale construction, you have to be recognized and by insurances and control offices in construction. You have to be trained and to be qualified ProPI. It is a training, a 5-day training, which teach how to build with a straw bale, and it is here a clause to ask for companies who have been qualified ProPI, and so who are recognized by insurances. So this is a clause who have been written in link with Paris Habitat, which is a social housing owner in Paris. And the clause is here. So when for companies following the professional rules of straw bale construction, the groupment will have to justify for proper training, or just if I have an experience in be experimented in strawberry construction. And so you have the same informations about this clause. So here it is for the moment. I'm just looking if I have something to add to my presentation. No, I think it's good. You can find videos. In fact, we've got also in except the closest other resources which are presented in this website. And for example, this is a small video about construction in Strobel and in Hemcrete, about indoor air quality, about water resource preservation, and some more are coming. I think it is all for me. Anthony, do you want to add, tu veux ajouter autre chose?
Non, Marie, c'est bon. Je pense que j'arriverai pas à ajouter quelque chose.
Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any question.
Thank you very much for your presentation of the the green clause and presenting the possibilities of this web tool. So now the presentation is open for questions and comments from the participants. Okay, so please go ahead. There is in the chat area, there is still a question from Adam. So he's asking you, what would be the biggest challenge for social housing programs? So he would like to know your opinion about this. Will it be a question of prosumer and distributed energy development, or is it possible to marry sustainable construction and green procurement on a large scale and not only in France?
It is a good question, very good question, and we are working a lot of about this subject with social housing owners. For example, I think it is very the different challenges are linked with the region the social housing owner is located. And for example, in northern France, we are living and working in oil mining area, and we have a lot of individual houses which are very consuming a lot of energy. And we are working with the French government, the region, and also the different territories and social housing owners to help them to build like criteria to get fundings to make efficient refurbishment. So, for example, we have made like criteria to a list of criteria on how to make a good refurbishment with a level of energy consumption to reach, but also to use sustainable source products and renewable energies. So they are very concerned by good refurbishment, and it is very important. And we are also working with them in order to develop the use of Hemcrete for refurbishment, because it is a new construction solution. And we've been working with them to implement, to put the clause and to experiment on one house, then on 2 houses. And this year, the Hemcrete will be used in 50 houses for refurbishment, and we hope that it will be we have good feedback about it, and in a few years we will be able to to have like 1,000 or 2,000 houses refurbished with hempcrete. And on the other side, we are also working with the offer. So we are working with farmers and the cultural sector in order to provide hemp chives which are usable to make hempcrete following the French regulation. And also with company, we are providing training. So it is a type of action we are doing to help and to maximize the use of biosource product in a big refurbishment program for social housing owners. So we are trying to do it, but it is still an experiment. And I don't know if other countries in Europe, if you have the same kind of actions or initiatives.
Okay, thank you very much. There is another question here, which was posted by Alessandro, and he's asking whether the tool you presented today is going to become the reference or official tool for the Région Hauts-de-France or GPP, or will it stay as kind of a demo?
Alors ça, c'est une question pour Anthony. I translate to my colleague. En fait, il y a une question qui demande si ça va devenir un outil officiel pour la région Hauts-de-France pour leurs achats publics.
Alors, tu peux rappeler que c'est un outil qui a de plus en plus d'utilisateurs, que pour l'instant, il y en a 13 000, et qu'on est en train de répondre et de réfléchir avec l'ADEME nationale sur une gouvernance nationale qu'on va partager entre toutes les régions de France, et pas seulement les Hauts-de-France, puisque c'est un outil national.
Okay. So Anthony says that we have more and more users of this la classe verte. And now we are working with the ADEME, so the National Agency for Energy, in order to see how we can have national governance of this tool. So, for example, it could be ADEME with regional ambassadors, and to make it a reference tool for the other regions in France. So this is something we are working on now.
Okay, thank you very much. So you have shown today that this tool can cover a wide range of public purchases. I mean, it can be used in different areas. And you have also mentioned, if I am right there, that currently you have 13,000 users.
That's right.
So from which area of public procurement does the majority of users come at the moment?
Okay. So I'm going to ask Anthony. Anthony, par rapport aux 13 000 personnes qui ont utilisé l'outil, est-ce que tu sais à peu près quelle typologie d'utilisateurs c'est?
C'est une majorité de collectivités, mais étant donné que l'outil, on ne s'inscrit pas pour l'utiliser, c'est difficile de caractériser vraiment les utilisateurs. Mais tu peux leur dire que c'est des collectivités publiques en très très grande majorité, plus de 95%.
Okay. Anthony says that the majority of the users are coming from public authorities and are public purchaser. But we don't have more precise information because as people are not registered, we can't know exactly who is using the tool. But we have a lot of feedback coming to Anthony from different public authorities who have used the tool and asking for more information or willing to contribute.
Okay, thank you very much. It seems there is no further questions. So at this point, I would like then to thank you for your participation at the event and to present your interesting tool and your activities going on in the field of green public procurement. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alabin. Thank you, everybody. And if you think it is a tool which could be interesting to develop in your region or in your country, please don't hesitate to contact us, because we would like to have this kind of discussion and reflection.
Okay, thank you very much. We will certainly consider these possibilities. Thank you. So, dear participants, so since there are no further questions, so we are now here very much in agreement with the schedule. So, and now we have to do the wrap-up session, and this wrap-up session will be done by Francesco from the ACR Plus, and who, at least I suppose so, was during the event very nicely writing some concluding remarks in the live discussion board. So, Francesco, please go ahead.
Okay. And here we are. So just giving a quick look at what we shared today, and hoping it's a lead to move on for tomorrow comments. If we look at the right side of the board, so what we meant to be more useful and more usefully potentially replicated in partners region, we have clear mentions to two key elements. One, if we go here in the middle, we have comments on how is important stakeholders engagement and training and engaging procurers through help desk and recommendations. So these were the tool that were recognized as most useful at the end of the second presentation. On La Clause Verte, we have one big comment. I guess someone made it bigger to read it more easily. I just remember that with your mouse, you can scroll it to zoom instead of making the sticky notes bigger. So one element who came out is, and of course, if there's someone who wrote these sticky notes and wants to comment or elaborate further, please don't hesitate to interrupt me. We have La Clause Verte is recognized as a ready-to-use tool, and these can be helpful in case of overburdened public administration. It is a good starting point to set more structured dialogue with public administration. Probably that's because I have a clicker on that sticky notes. Again, on La Clause Verte, which is deemed useful, especially to spread good ideas among municipalities, and nice that it is incremental. That's the key factor that has been highlighted through the board. We have, coming back to the second presentation about the Slovenian models, and this brings us back a bit to stakeholders' engagement needs. They are proposing that they are highlighting the need to involve independent experts to initiate life cycle costing processes and then research into the market. So that's a nice declaration on how not only public authorities perspective, not only market perspective are enough, but there's the need of a sort of third in the independent expert party to facilitate, initiate, and move on with processes. We already discussed then before the two previous comments on the connection between minimum environmental criteria and life cycle approaches. This was already answered. And about training for civil servants and engagement of SMEs also, we already had some discussion. So maybe the key question I still see open, we can try to answer it today, or it will be one of the key discussion points to feed following days or the follow-up action we identify in the TLJ document. There's still this open point on involvement of independent experts. Maybe we can discuss, reflect a bit further on which stage we want to involve independent experts, if in understanding which programs, which environmental criteria, or which sectors to start addressing for LCC processes. And that's the key question still open. I think that the other sticky notes, we somehow already went through them before previous discussion. So please, if there's anyone who wrote one of the comment or someone who want to elaborate further on the involvement of independent experts, time to step up, or we can pose the open questions at the end of the TLJ.
Well, regarding this key point that you mentioned now, I think this was also described, presented during the talk of Mr. Tsaroshek, who is still here with us. So, as I understood earlier, well, so when the authorities decide, let's say, to put certain new subjects into the decree, at least I understand, so that it goes like this in Slovenia. So then they decide also to go ahead with some workshops or to write down detailed instructions that the procurers have to follow, and then when establishing some criteria, I think that at that point, I think that the need or help the expertise of independent experts is needed. So maybe Mr. Tsaroshek correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I understood his presentation today.
Yes, I think you understood it correctly. So I think that experts should be included all the way. So when you set these criteria, you should have them available. So you because this is in some way, this is science. So you should have experts, not so much politicians. So you set these criteria to be scientifically okay. Then on the second step, you should always strive towards that you have some national agencies that help public procurers. So for example, if you procure in Slovenia chemicals, cleaning services, and so on, you have a special agency that offers answers to those questions because they are the experts. And I think you should also encourage public procurers to have to procure jointly, so to more joint procurement, because as I said, 3,000 procurers in Slovenia. We don't have 3,000 experts, but if they connect, they can figure out the proper way to include those green criteria. And the last part, I think that you should make some kind of analysis if those criteria really had those impacts that you envisioned at the start. So these experts should be included all the way, and you should. We have in our GBP regulation, it states that they should these examples that we give the public procurers, they have to be updated every 2 years. So in that regard, you should always include some experts, and of course you should find some common language.
Thank you very much for your detailed explanation.
Thanks a lot. Sorry, I'm taking the chance to sum it up because it was kind of a relevant input to be added to discussion. It is pretty much interesting how most part of the interactions we had today, they are focusing rather than on technical criteria connected with the environmental criteria, but to stakeholders engagement as one of the key factor relying on which public procurement and LCC approaches for public procurement are should be based. I think that it was for today. It was a nice experiment. I think that we stretched a bit our muscles, and tomorrow we will probably have a much more populated board because we said that it worked. We already have at least a couple of very useful inputs to drive our TLJ reports and to share it with partners and participants for a follow-up. So for the moment, I think I would give back the floor to you, Albin, for conclusions.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Francesco. So now the program for the first day of this event comes to its end. So I would like to thank all the speakers who gave interesting presentations here today on green public procurement. And I would also like to thank all the participants attending the first day of the Transnational Learning Journey #4, organized within the framework of the LCA4Regions Interreg project, for very interesting and for interesting discussion and participation during the questions and comments sessions. I also thank Francesco for his activities regarding the wrap-up session and all the work done to make this live discussion board live indeed. So I thank you all for your participation today. So before closing, I would like just to tell you that tomorrow we continue with the second day of the event, which will be on LCA good practices on public procurement in the first part. And then in the second part, we will have a presentation from a professional who is going to talk about challenges in introducing green public procurement in life. So we will start with the program tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central European time, and the link for the event tomorrow will be sent to you in the
let's say that normally I wouldn't call you for that, but we managed. But we had another problem because we have a bad subcontractor on the other meeting on which Ernest is taking part today. So I'm trying to go help to the other meeting to back him up for 5 minutes. It was a bit an unforeseen things, but in any case, it was, as you see, also the last part, it was super generic. You just read through that, and tomorrow we will repeat the same story, and depending on, maybe we can try to be a bit more near, and depending on how the day is going and how much you feel comfortable, you will see if you feel comfortable enough on contents, even because contents are kind of
so this happens in live events. So I would like now to close this event. So I thank you all for the participation, and we see each other tomorrow at 10 a.m. And as I said, the link will be sent to you in the early afternoon today, so you will receive it well on time. So thank you very much for the participation. At the first day of the TLJ4 event, and see you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.